Hey everybody, Thacia here with Legacy of Light in conjunction with One Love Wellness Center here in Menasha, Wisconsin, coming to you for one of my 365 days from my heart to yours, live off the cuff. Discussing if the Buddha dated, the handbook for finding love on the spiritual path, conscious dating, conscious in all your relationships, not just your dating, but your family, your friends, and so today is chapter 5, and it's notice the stories you tell yourself. The cause of troubled relationships and fears about dating or giving oneself to love are born in the stories that we tell ourselves. We experienced a troublesome event, had an emotional response, and then we created this story to explain that and to alleviate our pain. Over time, we repeat the story until it took on a life of its own and started to become a script we followed. Laura enjoyed taking violin lessons as a young girl, but found them difficult. One day when she was struggling with a particular piece, her teacher became frustrated and said, "You just don't have any musical talent." From then on, Lauren shied away from anything to do with music. She wouldn't sing, dance, or play any instruments. The story, "You have no musical talent," was so pervasive it became like a concrete in her brain. She wouldn't even sing happy birthday at parties and was overwhelmed with anxiety when asked to take part in folk dancing at a school gathering. Many years later, she met a woman who loved to dance. She met a man. She met a man who loved to dance. He invited her to go with him to a local dance club one night. "No, I can't dance," she exclaimed, feeling intense anxiety. "Hey, I didn't mean to scare you," he said, seeing her panic. "Who told you that you couldn't dance?" When she recounted the violin story, the belief that she had no talent, he smiled and said, "But that doesn't make it true." His remark was like a laser beam of light, shattering her rigid belief. Slowly, with his help and patience, she became willing to learn some easy dance steps. When she discovered that not only could she learn to dance, she enjoyed it, she realized that she had limited her life drastically because of a story that she had made up as the result of one harsh, insensitive remark made a very long time ago. We all make up stories based on how our parents, church, religions, or teachers treated us. These beliefs get hardwired into the limbic system of the brain, and we believe them as they were the absolute truth rather than ideas put into our minds. They become knee-jerk reactions we can't seem to control. We organize our experiences around the false beliefs, and they become the filter through which we interpret and react to people in situations. If we have the belief, "I'll always be abandoned," we create situations where we will be abandoned and forget to notice when people are loyal friends. Our task on this spiritual path is to stop repeating the same old stories and become aware of all the ways that we keep proving our stories are true. So I know one of mine was, unworthiness. And it's funny how my entire childhood and teenage years, when I was being ruckus, my parents were continually showing me that I was worthy of love and affection, and yet I still carried that with me that I wasn't into basically all my adult relationships because, I was still doing all this stuff to hide from the reality that I was living in. So one of the ways that I've changed that is that, I've come to love myself for everything that has happened. I've come to love all the people on my path who, necessarily aren't deserving of it. But really, we all are, no matter what situation. And to remember that we've asked and invited all of these experiences into our life. And we are the ones, once we become aware, are the only ones that can stop that pain and suffering. It's not somebody else, and somebody else didn't cause the pain and suffering. A lot of it has to do with these, patterns that we've built up and that we've created, that the ego has created in our protection, because it's like, this something happens, and thus this, maybe it happens again, and then this pattern is created, and then it becomes so ingrained that we just do this. So, and a lot of times in relationships, if we break up with one, if we don't realize the truth of that relationship and why it has really ended, again, we are just going to repeat these patterns. So I continue to repeat patterns of, finding people who didn't think themselves worthy as well, and so couldn't think that I was worthy either. And then I didn't have to be vulnerable, because yes, you can grow in these relationships and have love, but eventually it's like this tumultuous ending that has to happen, and before you can leave. That's my experience for myself. I'm not saying everybody's had this experience, I'm just talking in mine. But most of them were because I didn't love myself, and that's okay. But now I am aware, and so then I'm looking to break these patterns, and I feel like, as time goes by, that I am breaking these patterns. And another thing that I thought was like, oh, I woke up, everything is gonna be cool now, shit's gonna be good, everybody else who's awake is cool, and it doesn't really work like that. We're awakening, we're becoming enlightened, but we're becoming enlightened on how to be this human that we are now. I'm becoming enlightened on how to be the best Daisha. And, sometimes that's looking at some, I guess what I feel like is, some not so nice stuff. And it's totally okay, but sometimes it is difficult. Sometimes you have to just, take some time away and just fucking cry, because shit is hard. And we have to make decisions and choices for our best. And sometimes that means letting people go in our life that really aren't going in the same direction and we're just repeating the same pattern with. And when we get to the point where we realize, no, I don't want to do this, and we stop repeating that pattern, that's freaking amazing. And I was telling a friend this morning when we were on a walk that if that pattern is the only thing that, it's not gonna be, but if that was the only thing that happened in this lifetime, I should be so freaking proud of myself. And my team is like, yes, there's more that's happened, but if just that one pattern of, me sticking to my boundaries, sticking to what I truly desire above anything else and anyone else in any of my relationships. Saying, no, that's not what I want. And no, that's not what I am going to accept. I get to do that. And if that's the only pattern that I broke, well then, you know, that would be enough. That is amazing. But, you know, there's been more and there will be more. But the point is that each pattern that we recognize and that we break through our different relationships, be proud of yourself. Give yourself some credit, not like, ah, shit, like, how did I get into this space again? Well, when you become aware that you're in a pattern space and you get out of it, then that's the lesson, is that you got out and you don't have to go back again. And it may, you know, come back a time or two, but the time that you spend in that pattern is going to be shorter, till then you finally decide that you're not going to do that pattern anymore. Think about all the times that we have spent making and building and living in these patterns that we've created for our protection. Think about all that time. You know, so I'm 42, so I've spent, like, you know, some of these patterns have started since I was like 3 years old. That's a long frickin' time to just expect it to be like, okay, I got it. We have to go through this process. And the process of learning and letting go and moving through these things is what we want, is what we desire. I know sometimes I've said before, like, I would love to go from A to Z all the freaking time. That's just like my spirit's like, we know what to do, let's just get there. And that's just, you know, something that I've been working with, is like this whole, like, you know, rest of the alphabet in between. It's the journey. It's not the destination. It is how we go through these journeys that we learn so much more, and we appreciate it so much more when we get, you know, to not repeating the patterns and move on to something else. So it says, while we may, as individuals, have many personality traits, according to the Enneagram, which is based on ancient Sufi teachings, there are 9 basic personality types, and each person has one that predominates. Although we have some of the traits of the others, according to Kathleen Hurley, author of My Best Self, underlying each personality type is an unconscious motivation that causes us to respond to life in a way so consistent as to become the driving force shaping our lives. There are many interpretations of this and the 9 personality types. One I find most useful is Stephen Walensky's reference to false core beliefs, or false core drivers, that underline the 9 personality types. These false core beliefs reflect the conclusions about ourselves we came to as a result of our early childhood traumas and experience. Walensky lists 9 basic false core beliefs that correspond to each of the 9 personality types. Your false core belief has a tremendous effect on how you react to situations and whom you attract for friends and lovers. As we release these false core beliefs, or become less fused with them, we become freer to live from our essence. See if any of the following resonate with you. Number 1, there must be something wrong with me. Number 2, I am worthless, and that was mine. 3, I have the inability to do. 4, I'm inadequate. 5, I don't exist. 6, I am alone. 7, I'm incomplete, there is something missing. 8, I am powerless. And 9, there is no love. It is a loveless world. Do any of these false core beliefs feel familiar? Do they suggest why you have been attracted to certain people in your life? Yeah. What if we listened for a whole day or week, or the rest of our lives to all the stories we tell ourselves, seeing them for what they are, a defense against our false core belief, which keeps us from connecting with our essence, which is free, open, spontaneous, and creative. What if we explored each story carefully, tenderly, while reminding ourselves we are now adults able to make choices? Our ego would flare up because it believes our stories are real. There are a lot of jerks out there. She was totally irresponsible. My parents were mean. I wasn't taught how to love. Our ego may also be indignant if we are lighthearted. Are you making fun of my pain? One of our biggest stories is that our pain is serious. From a Buddhist perspective, we can remember that pain is seen as an inevitable aspect of human existence. It's our attachment to being free of pain that creates this suffering. Yes, we sometimes hurt, and it certainly matters. Yes, past events affected us, and yes, we've had to face tough things in life. But the trauma is over now. We free ourselves by bringing awareness to the moment and experience life in the present, unbound by the memories from the past. So when you think of running and add in the personals, having a first date, feeling sexual attractive, or being loved, first notice the stories that come to your mind. Notice the sensations in your body or any changes in your energy level. When I get invested in my negative stories, I feel dry, a flat sensation in my chest. Remember, our stories are locked in places by fear. Fear of experience the current moment, the emptiness beneath all the chaos and activity created by our stories, and the fear of experiencing a loving connection that pierces our heart and reveals both our grief and our joy. If you can loosen the grip of the false beliefs even a little, your life will have more flow. One helpful technique common in the Buddhist practice is that when you get absorbed in our thinking, we simply say, thinking, and bring our attention to our breath as it goes in and out. The idea is to create openness and spaciousness by being less identified with our thoughts. Underneath all of our stories, we often find painful memories. Meditation, counseling that uses EMDR, which is the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So it basically is reprocessing the information, taking it from your short-term memory and putting it into your long-term memory. So it's not like this flight or fight response every time this memory comes to you. And once it's in your long-term memory, it's like, oh, it happened, but it's not still happening, and it didn't happen, anytime in, the near, like our short-term memories, like every time, like this just happened like minutes ago or like a day ago. It's like this short-term intense thing. So, and quantum psychology worked as described by Stephen Walensky are some methods for going beyond false core beliefs. This is if you have like some extreme trauma or, PTSD, or these super painful memories like you feel like you can't get past. But the key to allowing the memories into our heart is compassion. We can remember that we hurt or alone and did the best that we could to comfort ourselves. We can say to that part of ourselves, I understand why you felt that way, but it's over now. We are grown up and we can take care of yourselves. And a lot of times, with my ego, recently I've just, when these things come up, these lies or whatever, these patterns, I just tell it like, I love you. And I appreciate you for keeping me safe this whole time and not letting me get hurt any further. But guess what? We are safe. We are loved. We are worthy. Every part of us. And just saying that, you know, sometimes I, you know, wait till later to say it out loud or saying it in my head. But when you say it out loud to yourself, it's so much power, because there is so much power in our words. Whether we speak them to ourselves in our mind, or we speak them to ourselves out loud, or, you know, speaking to other people, there's power in your words. So when you say this, it's as if that part of you then believes you. Okay, like, and it may take, you know, a couple times, depending on what it is. But I love you. You're safe. We got this. We're going to try a different path. Because I believe, I have faith that we are going to be okay. And let's just try this. And that gives, you know, that part of you a peace. It gives that part of you a chance to be like, okay. You know, like it may be hesitant. I don't really want to, because like all these things, and you can just say, I know those happened. But, you know, it's different now. And it's going to be okay. And just that reassurance is, you know, reassurance for yourself. It's part of you that is, you know, had created this pattern. It's not like something outside of you. It is part of you. So as in the relationships, all of this, you know, beginning chapters are about connecting with ourselves. We have to connect with ourselves. We have to look at our patterns with ourselves, you know, before we can then work, you know, with someone else. And if you are in a relationship, that's fine, but just look at all of these things within yourself while you're in that, and you will see, as you begin to notice this, that things will become easier if you know, if you're in a difficult patch, or if you're just in that, you know, sleep state or whatever. You will become, when you choose to go within and notice these stories that you're telling yourself, and making a conscious effort to create other patterns that are healthier and that will serve you better. And just to be willing to do that, and to thank those old patterns and love them, because they are part of you. They are what has created you to where you are right now. And it's just an acceptance. And, you know, being the observer and not judging, you know, and not shaming yourself, or, oh, you can't do that. Like, because we can. We get to choose whatever we want. So, as always, you are eternally adored and loved for just being you. And I will see you all tomorrow. Thanks.